Sports moves fast in March, and no time more so than this weekend, with the first and second rounds of the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments and the NCAA wrestling tournament. We've got updates to give you, and none as exciting as the fact that Iowa State men's basketball advanced to the round of 32 in a dominant fashion over South Dakota State. The exclamation point on the evening was a late game steal by the chief energy officer himself, everyone's favorite CEO, Conrad Holly. Tonight, it's the women's turn as they face off against Maryland on the West Coast. Today is Friday, March 22nd. I'm Matt Menson, and welcome to the Cornfield Sports Pod. As always, my co-host sitting right here on my left, Blake Peterson.
What's going on?
Dude, there is a lot going on right now. It's March Madness, man.
It is March Madness.
That's, there's everything going on right now.
Dude, and yesterday has been a day. It's like finally get to be back watching basketball like all day.
Dude, it's basketball all day, but you can't tell me that there isn't like a more jammed like excitement thing than the NCAA wrestling tournament mat cast. It's just all 8 mats side by side. You throw that on one monitor, you put the YouTube TV with the 4 simultaneous basketball games on the other, and that's how you live sports. That's how you live March Madness right there.
That's grounds to skip class.
Dude, it's March Madness should just be like a holiday. There should be no work, no classes. It's
like professors, like if professors are just gonna have class, then just have it on in the background. Just have the lecture and then just like have.
And if you have to have an exam, at least make sure you're not having it during your team's game. I know there was a handful of professors here at Iowa State that did that. Fortunately, we were not caught up by those, but you know, some of the people we know here were, and we're not able to watch our own team's game because our professors, I guess, just don't care enough about our team.
You know, there's a loop around with this. I've taken tests with my stocking hat on, and then I've just had my headphones on, like listening to music. I mean, people can just do that and listen to John Walters on the radio.
That's an interesting thing to admit too. Hope your professors don't listen to that.
Whoops.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not editing that out, by the way.
I know.
But anyway, yeah, men's basketball, big time win last night against 15th seeded South Dakota State. Now, granted, this was a game that there was no reason we should have lost anyway. So, you know, it was fully expected for us to win in dominant fashion.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we led the entire game here. South Dakota State at no point had the lead. We started the game, was it 9 for 9 shooting?
Mm-hmm.
8 for 8, 9 for 9, something like that. We started the game very hot, and we stayed that way. Had as high as, I believe it was a 24-point lead, and then won by 17. Yes. So, and the only reason that that gap got smaller was because we, emptied the bench at the end of the game, and it allowed South Dakota State to get a few easier buckets than they'd been able to get over the course of the rest of the game.
Yeah, put Kelderman and Conrad Holly in. Conrad Holly almost got his first points of the season.
Almost got his first. He missed a layup.
I was so mad. I was so mad. I was so sad at the same time.
Missed a layup, but he still got a stat. He still got himself a stat, though.
He got a stat.
He got himself a stat. He got himself that steal. So, you know what? Big day for the chief energy officer. But yeah, no, we led the entire game, but you know, we won that game all around. But primarily, one of the things I noticed, we won with depth. You know, we had 5 players in double figures, 2 of which were coming off of the bench in Hassan Ward and Curtis Jones. South Dakota State played their 5 starters for the majority of the game. They did not have much depth. They did not have a ton come off their bench.
Mm-hmm.
That made a big deal because our players were fresher by the end of the game, and theirs were not. That's why when we were still playing our main rotation, we were starting to pull away so quickly in the second half. You know, they were gassed and we were not.
Yeah,
that made a huge deal.
That's gonna take a toll on their crew.
Oh, it absolutely takes a toll. On top of that, just better shooting. I already mentioned we started the game off was 8 for 8, 9 for 9, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we shot better than South Dakota State the entire game. I believe we were 57% from the floor. We shot better from 3 than them at 47%, something along those lines. And then defensive pressure. South Dakota State hasn't seen anything like our defensive pressure all year.
No.
No team outside of our actual schedule and Houston's schedule has seen defensive pressure, like the kind that we bring to the table, because the only two teams in the country that bring this kind of defensive pressure are us and Houston.
Yeah. And I'm glad we haven't seen it go anywhere anytime soon.
No, well, defense travels.
It does.
Offense typically doesn't travel, to neutral or away courts, but defense travels well. Because there's a lot less luck involved in defense. So it's good stuff for Iowa State, and that's the kind of thing you want to rely on, things that are consistent in March. Shooting is not consistent. That's not a thing that you want to have to rely on in March. But if you're going to win by defense stays consistent.
Well, we learned that from Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia, who had no business being in this tournament in the first place.
We forgot to mention, I might need to make a wallpaper out of 5 pictures of Hassan Ward with his 5 dunks of the game.
A wallpaper or just like a massive collage of posters? Because, those were poster dunks.
They were.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, 5 players in double figures, though, because to add to the Ward list, Milan Momcilovic, monster shooting night from him. He started off the game insanely hot. Taman Lipsy and Keyshawn Gilbert, as always, led the offense, and then Curtis Jones off the bench once again. Solid performance from him.
I mean, I think Momcilovic got to double figures in points pretty fast.
Yeah, he got to double figures. Was it in 11 minutes or something like that? Yeah. It was crazy. And then so it's March. Quick turnarounds. Tomorrow we play Washington State, 7th seed. Was watching the game against Drake last night. We were both watching that game. Wazoo won 66-61 against Drake in a game that was not.
Both teams struggled.
Both teams struggled. If you look at the score of this game, you would think this game was all about the defense. There was just a lot of offensive errors. There was a lot of unnecessary turnovers by both teams.
Yeah.
But yes, the offense from both of those teams struggled in Omaha. Washington State was not a great shooting team. They got saved a lot of times on second chance points, and that's second chances that they're not going to get against Iowa State because Iowa State is a much better rebound team. Iowa State does an effective job of crashing the glass. You'll see a lot of times when we're going for defensive boards, all 5 guys on our team going for their rebound, and that's the kind of stuff that you didn't see out of Drake last night, and you didn't see out of Washington State last night. So I really like our chances to dominate the boards here tomorrow night against Washington State. But yeah, Wazoo, not a great team shooting. One of the other things I noticed, Wazoo seems to like a slower pace of offense. They like to play into that half-court offense, take their time. And this, in my opinion, I think plays right into Iowa State's hands because the longer they dribble the ball, the more likely they are to turn it over. If they're not getting a shot up, then they're either making a pass to get a shot later or they're going to turn the ball over. So they were not great in the ball handling aspect of it last night. Neither Wazoo nor Drake was great when it came to ball handling. So I think that gives IOSU more opportunities to force turnovers. And if the Iowa State defense can turn that into a counterattack and they can make offense out of defense, score in transition, it's good outlook for Iowa State. I certainly think that Washington State is a better matchup for Iowa State than Drake is. I think this played right into Iowa State's hands. So that Washington State beating Drake last night, a good thing for Iowa State. I know a lot of the Iowa State fans in Omaha wanted Drake to win because, they're the little brother that we love. They're the lovable little bro. So, but
we have 3 little brothers in the state.
We have 3 little brothers in the state.
We like 2 of them.
We like 2 of them, and then there's the team out east, and the team out east is kind of that redheaded stepchild, Yeah.
Is the team out east the blue haired one?
The team out east is the redheaded stepchild.
Oh well.
That's the figure of speech anyway.
Well, we were just there, so.
We were just there. And you know what? I've said it before and I've said it again. CHA is kind of an ugly arena.
It also smells bad.
It does. And their chairs are an ugly color and are uncomfortable.
Dude, their chairs were, oh my gosh. Just come there and then come back to Hilton and like it's night and day.
Hilton's like luxury compared to CHA. And we don't actually have luxury anything at Hilton. You know, it's just, you know, you go in there and you be loud. But, you know, that's kind of an irrelevant conversation. We got some more hoops to talk about here. Tonight, the women start their NCAA tournament against the 10 seed Maryland. They're playing at Stanford. That's the host site. Winner of this game almost certainly ends up playing the second seeded Stanford Cardinal. And I mean, that team's a brick wall, but we can get to that in a second.
Now Stanford's going to lose. Stanford's going to lose to Audi Crooks and Addie Brown.
Yeah.
Mark my words.
We'll talk about that when we get there. But anyway, tonight versus Maryland, because you gotta get through Maryland first. Don't want to get caught looking ahead. Both teams great on the offensive side of the ball. They struggle on defense. We'll see how this equates out for Iowa State, because Iowa State has had a bit of a turnover problem lately. But if Maryland is not going to pressure the ball at all, then maybe that alleviates that a bit. But yeah, we do need to keep turnovers in check. Maryland allows over 77 points a game. So that should mean good stuff for our offense. There should be a lot of open opportunities. I like that. But one of the things that I am concerned with, and this tends to be a problem among freshman-built teams in March Madness, both on the men's and women's side, our players haven't been here before. Like, they don't have the experience. They haven't been under these kind of lights before. How are they going to handle the pressure? It's because you can go one of two ways, where you keep doing your thing, kind of like how Iowa State did in Kansas City, and they just kind of shrugged it off, and they just played some good ball. Or do you crack under the pressure because the brightest spotlight is on you now?
I was just looking for a second, like you probably saw me, because I saw somewhere on Twitter that our ladies were looking at film and they noticed like a lack of depth, like of a guard, like guarding down the perimeter, like, and our ladies are asking like, who's going to guard Audi? So I've got kind of good feelings for that, like
being able to execute in that post move.
Exactly.
Audie's a hard player to guard. It doesn't really matter who you are. And unless you've got other ways of outsizing her, because Audi can out physical pretty much anyone on the court. She's an animal in that regard. So the only way you can really beat Audi is just with raw height, and there's not a lot of players that just outsize her like that. I think if you want to be able to beat Audi in that way, you almost need like a kind of like what we had in Stephanie Suarez last year. That's the kind of player that you need to have in order to beat Audi. And well, let's just say Stephanie Suarez's are few and far between. It's not every day you find a 6'6" women's basketball player. So that's how that goes.
That was our lottery winner right there, honestly.
It's a shame that the NCAA didn't give her that medical red shirt, but that's a story for a different day. Anyway, tonight's game, Vegas is favoring Maryland minus 1.5. That's the spread. Computers have the game essentially as a coin flip, depending on which algorithm you're looking at. But the win does likely result in a matchup with second-seeded Stanford on their home court. And Stanford, in my opinion, I think Stanford might be a bit of an underrated team, because the Pac-12 was far and away the most dominant conference in women's basketball this year, especially with how good USC and UCLA are this year too. They're a 1 and 2 seed as well. So I mean, Stanford is battle tested in a way that not very many teams outside of the Pac-12 are. They're going to be ready to go.
Yeah, that's what makes this team like so scary.
Yeah, and the metaphor that I've been using is, you get through Maryland and you run into Stanford. That's kind of like running into a concrete wall. They're a tough team, and maybe Audi can beat them on the post moves, but are we going to be able to even get the ball to Audi in the post, because that requires guard play to be at a high enough level. And if Stanford's defense is able to close out hard on our guards, then we're going to struggle to get the ball into the post where we need it to score. So, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it. Focus on beating Maryland tonight first. Wrestling.
I think we missed this last week, since we weren't here. But
we mentioned it on the bonus pod that we're Big 12 wrestling champions.
Yeah.
So we already got that covered.
Yeah,
we mentioned that on the bonus pod. NCAA wrestling championships are going on right now. Session 3 just finished up very shortly ago. But I'll go through weight by weight here how Iowa State's doing. 125 pounds, Kyson Tarakina was eliminated without placement. He won one bout in the wrestlebacks, only scored half a team point. Evan Frost sent to the wrestlebacks in the quarterfinals by the top-seeded Dayton Fix from Oklahoma State. Frost has scored 2 team points. At 141 pounds, Anthony Echemendia advanced to the semifinals. He will face top-seeded Jesse Mendez from Ohio State. Echemendia will place at least 6th place. He also earned bonus points by tech fall in the first round and has scored a total of 10.5 team points. At 149 pounds, Casey Swiderski sent to the wrestlebacks in the quarterfinals by the top-seeded Ridge Lovett. He scored 2 team points. At 157 pounds, Cody Chittum eliminated without placement. He earned bonus points by tech fall in the first wrestleback round. He scored 2 team points. At 165 pounds, David Carr advanced to the semifinals to face top-seeded Keegan O'Toole. Carr will place at least 6th. He earned bonus points by tech fall in the first round and major decision in the second round. He has scored 11.5 team points. At 174 pounds, MJ Gaitan, currently alive in the wrestlebacks, earned bonus points by fall in wrestleback round 1 and major decision in wrestleback round 2, and has scored 4 team points. At 184 pounds, Will Feldkamp is alive in the wrestlebacks. He earned bonus points by fall in the first round and major decision in wrestleback round 2, and 4.5 team points total. And at heavyweight, Younger Bastida, unfortunately, unexpectedly,
he fell here.
Sent to the wrestlebacks in the quarterfinals by Lucas Davison. Now, he earned bonus points by fall in round 1 and tech fall in round 2 and scored 5.5 total team points. That means, unfortunately, it is extremely unlikely that we get the expected bout between Bastida and Kirk Fleet.
Mm-hmm. When you first told me that was a heartbreaker for me, at least.
Yeah, that was Bastida to the finals was something that we've been expecting for a while, and to not get that now is disappointing. And we figured that he would win the quarterfinal, and if you win your quarterfinal, you're automatically an All-American. So Bastida still has some work to do in order to get that AA and get the spot on the podium. Right now, the team is in 4th place with 41.5 team points behind Penn State with 84.5, Michigan with 50.5, and Arizona State with 44.5. If Bastida had won that quarterfinal, we would be in standalone 2nd place too, which also stings. But the wrestlers who lost in the quarterfinals, so that's Frost, Swiderski, and Bastida. They will wrestle in the blood round tonight. They win, they will All-American. So that's big tonight. And that'll get you placement. That'll rack up team points very quickly. So we need to get those guys on the podium. On top of that, the other guys that are alive in wrestlebacks, MJ Gaitan and Will Feldkamp, still have to win twice in wrestlebacks in order to become an All-American. So,
which we've got hope for our boys. Come on, baby.
Yep, we've got hope. We can still do some damage here. Blake, softball news real quick.
We do got softball. Last week I wasn't able to attend since I was on my business trip in New York. So last week we had a 2-1 Houston series, and in Ames last week. We got that series 2-1. Then we traveled down to Kansas City where we took an L. Next up, due to weather, we got a doubleheader for Texas Tech
tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
because we woke up today and had like 4 inches of snow.
I looked out my window. I was like, "What the?"
Yeah,
you know the rest.
I was going to classes this morning. I opened up the door to take a step outside, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, no, we're supposed to be past this. It was 70-something degrees just a couple weeks ago. Like this. Welcome to Iowa. Yeah,
Welcome to Iowa. Exactly.
Yeah, we don't need snow, and
we don't need snow anymore. We got our snow treatment during the snowpocalypse. We're fine.
Yeah, and you know what? If you're from, Minnesota or Wisconsin or something, and you're going to tell me it's no big deal, I don't want to hear it. Snow sucks. Just because you deal with it for longer than we do doesn't make it suck any less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Little more look out for softball. Next week we'll travel to Baylor. So,
well,
that might be a scary.
It at least won't be snowy in Waco.
Exactly.
That'll be better than the situation we got here right now. You know what?
Vinny,
no one's jinxing it. It's not snowing in Waco. Vinny thinks it's going to snow in Waco now.
Vinny.
No, Vinny, no. Who let you have the monitor mic? Anyway, let's talk some more basketball. Let's go to the pro level real quick. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they have now dropped to 3rd in the Northwest and 3rd in the Western Conference. Now, the Northwest is significantly better than the Pacific.
Well, are the teams ahead of them doing better, or are they doing worse?
It's a bit of both, because the Nuggets and the Thunder are just good. Like, they're good teams, too, and the Timberwolves are hamstrung by injuries right now.
Definitely with these first couple games, and then the Nuggets one got pretty close.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now, Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, and Naz Reid are all not at full health. And in that second game against the Jazz in this last week, Ant-Man had a beautiful poster dunk over John Collins, in which both players actually got injured in this one. I don't remember what the John Collins injury was, but Ant actually dislocated his finger on that one, and he was able to pop it back in place and return to the game and have it taped up. But that's still going to hurt for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So the Timberwolves are not at full health, and once they are back at full health, they'll be a dangerous team again. But yeah, Timberwolves 2 wins at the Jazz in this last week. Ant is just proving himself to be one of the best players in the NBA. And then, loss at home in the Target Center versus the Nuggets.
Yeah, Ant's out here like playing all injured with his twisted ankle, and he's still putting up a decent amount of points.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, upcoming for the Timberwolves here. Tonight, they will host the Cavaliers. That game will be the regional broadcast for that game will be given a national simulcast on NBA TV. And then Sunday, they'll play the Warriors. Wednesday, they'll play the Pistons. And we know none of y'all are going to watch that game against the Cavs tonight because there's March Madness to be watching instead. And, that's the way we all operate during weekends in the second half of March. And the NBA kind of gets ignored.
Well, but TNT is kind of occupied. So
yeah, TNT is a little bit busy. Well, TNT doesn't usually have Friday games anyway. TNT is Tuesdays and Thursdays. Anyway. Milwaukee Bucks, 45-25, first in the Central, second in the Eastern Conference. In the last week, big win against the Suns, scored 140 points in that one. It was the Giannis Antetokounmpo show again. That's kind of the case when the Bucks do well. They lost in their next game at the Celtics, close game, 122-119, and the result of that means that the Boston Celtics have officially clinched the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. In other words, they can basically sandbag the rest of their regular season schedule now. And then the Bucks won against the Nets 115-108 here as well. The Bucks remain only 1.5 games ahead of Cleveland, and Blake, I think that gap could close here pretty soon. The Bucks have an upcoming game against the Thunder, who are looking really strong lately. And the Cavs have not been falling away. Like they stick around. They don't die.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucks will get plenty of exposure here though. Sunday, they'll have their local broadcast simulcast to NBA TV. Tuesday they'll play the Lakers on TNT, and then Thursday they'll play at the Pelicans, and that one again will be simulcast to NBA TV.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of coverage, so I guess
they're
no pressure for them.
It's a good thing for them that standings in the NBA is what determines things. That there is no subjective rankings the way you get in college sports, where media attention can influence rankings. So you don't see that in the NBA. So and then the Chicago Bulls.
That's beloved Bulls.
My beloved Bulls are 2-1 in the last week, which brings them up to a 34-36 record. They are 4th in the Central, 9th in the Eastern Conference. And in this last week, big time win versus the Wizards, 127-98, just dominant. If you're gonna win a game by 29 points, let's make it look good. And career high 34 points for Ayo Dosunmu in that game. The Illinois boy in his home state at the United Center. That's the way you want to do it. Win versus the Trailblazers. This one was tighter than it should have been for a game against Trailblazers, but 110-107. You walk away with the dub. And then a loss at the Rockets. They lost the game 10 points, but the loss was not the story of this game because it happens every now in the NBA. You get a fight, you get a scuffle. This one was a bad look for DeMar DeRozan. Live ball foul. Absolutely bulldozed Jalen Green coming off of a screen. Some of the descriptions I've seen would call it a hip check. I don't know that I'd call it a hip check because it seemed a little bit more square than a hip check. Like he just ran right through him.
And that was a flagrant 2.
Yes, it did get upgraded to a flagrant 2. Following that, before it was reviewed and upgraded, right after he committed the foul, he turned around, turned his back on Green. Dylan Brooks comes up behind him, and it looked like Brooks was trying to say something to DeRozan, and DeRozan turned around and elbowed Brooks in the chin.
Ooh.
So just not a good look for DeMar DeRozan. That's not what you want to be doing. After that happened, they locked arms. They were pushing and shoving each other around on the floor. Scrum breaks out, and the end result of that was DeMar DeRozan and Dylan Brooks both getting ejected. DeRozan on the flagrant 2, and then Brooks on technical foul.
Honestly, no room for that. Honestly,
yeah, no, there's no reason for any of that. But anyway, upcoming for the Chicago Bulls here, Saturday they will host the Celtics. This one will get simulcast to NBA TV for the Bulls' last national broadcast of the year. So they're going to be kind of out of the limelight until playoffs, when presumably they end up in a play-in game. And that game will almost certainly be a loss for the Bulls as well. It is the Celtics after all. Then Monday they will host the Wizards again. So I don't know, maybe another big game for Ayo Dosunmu. Let's see it happen again. And then Wednesday they will host the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers probably the more likely team. They're probably the betting favorite in that game, but it's not one that the Bulls can't win. So let's see it happen, Chicago. All right, Blake, let's talk puck a little bit. You ready? Ready to talk some puck?
I want to talk some puck.
All right. Minnesota Wild, 34-28-8, 6th in the Central, 10th in the Western Conference. 2 more losses this week, only 1 more win, and unfortunately that win was to my Anaheim Ducks, who they shut out 4-0. The Wild lost at the Blues 3-2 in a shootout. They lost at the Kings in a 6-0 shutout. And then upcoming for the Wild, they'll host the Blues. So maybe a revenge win for them in the Xcel Energy Center.
They got chip on their shoulder.
They do have a chip on their shoulder, and the Wild certainly have something to prove here when they're fighting for playoff spot right now. So, and then Thursday they will host the Sharks, so they get a solid 5-day break out of that. Rest up, prepare for a game against the second worst team in the NHL, and that game, that Thursday game for the Wild, no excuses not to win this one. So, you should at the bare minimum, if you're the Wild, go 1-1 in the next week. Preferably 2-0 if you're the Wild, But the Sharks have a worse record than the Blackhawks now. Interesting.
Do they?
Okay, so we'll just say the Sharks standing in the league is like the Blackhawks now. They don't get a number anymore. They're just bad. That's how we're gonna call that.
Speaking of which,
Speaking of bad teams, the Blackhawks, their record is just bad. Their placement in their division is bad. They're not a good team. They lost 3 more games in the last week, and the only game they won in the last week was against the Sharks. So yeah, I guess that's why the Sharks are the worst team in the league now, because the Blackhawks, just beat them head to head. And if that's what passes them for the record, then yeah, I guess I don't know. Golf clap for you, Blackhawks. Good on you.
Good on you.
So yeah, no, not so good. You beat up on like a 3-year-old. That's what you did.
So
stealing candy from a baby.
If the Blackhawks,
actually, I guess it's not that bad, because if it's one baby that just steals candy from another baby, then
if the Blackhawks record is bad, then what's the Sharks?
Bad.
Worse.
We're past the point of using number thresholds. Bad is bad.
But if Blackhawks are bad, then Sharks need a better number.
We're past the point of even using numbers. Numbers don't reflect how awful these two teams are. But anyway, so other than that Sharks win, the Blackhawks were outscored 15-2 in the last week. Shut out by the Kings 5-0. Shut out by the Ducks 4-0. Go Ducks. And then they lost at the Kings 6-2. So, playing a bunch of West Coast teams here and not doing particularly good. Yeah. So now here's a important question we need to ask. Blake?
What?
Does the sport of hockey still claim the Blackhawks?
The sport of hockey should sell the team.
The sport. Wow. Wow. What? Vinny's mad in the control room now.
No, Vinny's coming after me now.
Vinny's having he's smiling back there in just anguish. No, it's a GM problem. It's not a selling the team problem. They need to hire a new GM. But let's be real. The Blackhawks are bad at hockey, and a team of 9-year-olds coached by Emilio Estevez could probably beat them. So, yep, I just made the Mighty Ducks claim. I'm making it happen. But anyway, upcoming for the Blackhawks, Saturday, they will be at the Sharks.
If the Sharks win this.
Revenge win for the Sharks, Vinny? Oh, I've got him riled up.
No, we both do. If the Sharks win this, I swear we're never going to see him again.
Yep. Anyway, and then they'll follow that up with the game Tuesday at home versus the Flames. And then Thursday, they'll take a trip up to Canada. They will go to Ottawa to play the Senators. And let's talk about the only team that we cover in the NHL that's actually likely to make the playoffs. So they can at least, they have an above 500 record. We can call them good. They're slightly better than mediocre.
5th in Central and 9th in Western Conference.
Yeah, slightly better than mediocre. Slightly. Yeah, last week here, win against the Wild, that 3-2 shutout that we previously mentioned. They beat the Ducks 4-2. Stop doing that, please. Don't beat the Ducks. Beat anybody else but the Ducks. especially the Blackhawks. It's funny. Wow. Okay, Vinny. Anyway, Blues, they lost at home to the Avalanche 4-3, and then after that homestand, they took a trip to Ottawa and beat the Senators 5-2. Upcoming, as previously mentioned, the Blues will take that trip to the Wild. They'll head up to St. Paul for that. Monday, they'll travel to Vegas for the Golden Knights. That game will be given a national broadcast on NHL Network. And then Thursday, they will host the Calgary Flames. Blake, we got another piece of big news this week.
Do we got baseball?
We have baseball.
We have baseball.
Spring training will be concluding on Wednesday, and the Major League Baseball opening season will begin on Thursday.
Come on, baby.
So we'll go through opening games here for each one of these teams here. The one that I want to talk about the most, because it's the only one on here that includes two teams that we cover, Twins Royals. And this one is the pitching battle on this one is going to be Pablo Lopez. It's going to be Pablo Day for the Twins, so chalk it up to a W already because, Pablo Day and against the Royals. Yeah, Royals are not winning this one. Cole Reagans will be starting for the Royals. I'm interested to see how the Twins do. We're looking healthier than they have in a while. We're actually going to have Royce Lewis to start the year, which is a great thing. We got some new moves in the bullpen. Interested to see how that goes. Eddie Julian should be starting at second base, replacing Jorge Polanco. It'll be interesting to see what we've got at first base, who starts there. Hopefully Carlos Correa is back up to form this year. Last year was a down year for Correa. Buxton will be back in the outfield. He is not in the full-time DH role anymore. So, get ready to have that speedy guy in the outfield that can catch balls that most guys have no business catching and can steal bases with the best in the league. It's a good thing for the Twins right now. And I'm expecting a decent season from them. As for the Royals, made a lot of moves in the offseason. The biggest one was extending Bobby Witt. And you know what? Bobby Witt, I'm going to give you some respect here, even though you play for the Royals, because, one, I can't really hate the Royals that much because even though they're an in-division rival, they've just kind of sucked, so I feel sorry for you. But Bobby Witt also picked Iowa State to win his March Madness bracket.
We love Bobby Witt.
So
does Bobby Witt know ball?
Bobby Witt might just know ball.
Not as much as
I can't say I love him because he plays for the Royals. But, I can at least say, you know what? That and Bobby Witt was a great player on my fantasy baseball team last year. So you know what? I can't say that I love Bobby Witt, but I respect Bobby Witt. I respect Bobby Witt Jr. All right. Chicago White Sox, another AL Central team here. They will open the season at home versus yet another AL Central team, the Detroit Tigers. The pitching battle here will be Tariq Skubal and Garrett Crochet. Yeah, to be honest, I don't really have any predictions for this one. I'm not super familiar with Skubal, so I don't really know what to expect from him. But to be honest, I don't expect either the White Sox or the Tigers to be all that good this year, especially with the White Sox not having Dylan Cease anymore. Their pitching depth just isn't there. So, let's go to the NL. The Milwaukee Brewers. They will begin their season at Citi Field, playing at the Mets. The pitching battle for this one will be Freddie Peralta versus Jose Quintana. I like the Brewers for this one. To be honest, the Mets offseason didn't really give me any reason to believe that they were going to be any sort of power. So if they are, it's going to be like organic growth and run production type of things like that. You're not going to see big slugging type things except from Pete Alonso. So that's going to be how that goes. You want to put Freddie Peralta and Jose Quintana in a pitching battle. I'll take Peralta. So give me the Brewers to win on opening day.
Besides the points, I On my way home from my trip, I did see a beautiful view of Citi Field on my way home, like at the airports. But that's besides the point. I got Brewers all the way.
Yeah, Brewers. Brewers, I think I'm going to have win that game. Let's go Cardinals real quick. They will open the season at the Los Angeles Dodgers. Miles Mikolas will pitch for the Cardinals. The Dodgers have yet to determine who will be pitching for them. And yeah, I kind of understand that. They're in kind of a weird situation with the whole South Korea thing where they have most of their spring training. Then they go to South Korea and they play 3 regular season games against it was 2 or 3 regular season games against the Padres. And then they come back to the States to play a few more spring training games here in the next week. And then they'll have their season opener, their home opener, I guess, anyway. Not true season opener, but their home opener against the Cardinals. So we'll see who ends up pitching for the Dodgers. That's just a weird way for things to roll. And then the primetime game on opening day for the Chicago Cubs. They will be playing at the Texas Rangers. They will be at Globe Life Field. And this one's going to be a battle of 2 pretty darn good pitchers with Justin Steele. He came close to winning that NL Cy Young last year. And then for the Rangers, Nathan Eovaldi will be pitching. That game will be broadcast. It'll be evening broadcast on ESPN. So, everyone can catch that game.
So we got baseball back.
Yep. Baseball is back. It's going to be awesome, guys. But what would be even more awesome is if you followed the Cornfield Sports Pod on Twitter at C Sports Pod. Blake, where can they find you at?
They can find me at Blake Attack 1846.
They can find me at SFMattISU. Of course, find producer Vinny at VinaciousD23. Tap the follow button on Spotify, the plus button on Apple. Subscribe on YouTube and Rumble.
This is Blake Peterson.
I'm Matt Menson. Our producer is Vinny Cataldo. And this has been the Cornfield Sports Pod.